Welcome back to another episode of PRN Test Drive. I'm your host, Nile, and today we're taking a look at this 2025 Ford Explorer ST. Now, James has driven the 25 Explorer twice, with the first drive back at the end of last year when Ford Canada unveiled this facelift, and then again just before the end of 2024. So if you want to know a little bit more about the vehicle, you can go check out that. Today we're going to be talking about how the Explorer ST stacks up to the competition, how it compares to some of the other new Ford vehicles that have come out recently, and everything else that you might need to know if you're cross-shopping the mid-size consumer crossover segment. Let's get started. So let's start off with what's under the hood of our Ford Performance Explorer ST. Powering it is the 3-liter EcoBoost V6 engine. It produces 400 horsepower, 415 pound-feet of torque. That is with premium fuel. We also have Ford's 10-speed automatic transmission, and 4-wheel drive is standard here in Canada no matter which trim you go with. However, in the US you do have the option for rear-wheel drive. Now there's one other thing to note about this compared to the US model. We do have the 35-30-35 split second row, whereas the ST in the USA only comes with the captain's chairs. Here it's an option. You can opt it either way. So the way that we have it here, this is a 7-passenger configuration. Now here on Test Drive, we feature a lot of SUVs. We've probably featured every single mid-size consumer crossover in the segment over the last 2 years. So if you really are cross-shopping these vehicles, we have a playlist available. You can check it out in the top right corner. That is all of the mid-size SUVs that we have done to date. So if you want to see how the other ones are, what features they've got, maybe see changes, because last time I drove the Explorer was back in 2019, you can see videos like that. But there are a lot of competitors: the Mazda CX-90, Volkswagen Atlas, Hyundai Santa Fe, Kia Sorento, Jeep Grand Cherokee L, just to name a few of them. But I want to talk about how this compares to some of the popular recent SUVs that I've done, such as the GMC Acadia Denali, Subaru Ascent Sport, Honda Pilot Sport, and the Nissan Pathfinder Platinum. Now, first off, when it comes to fuel efficiency, usually we do this when we're talking on our road test, but I'll tell you here, we completed our 100-kilometer test loop in eco mode with this Explorer in 9.3 liters per 100 kilometers. How does that compare to some of the recent vehicles? Well, the GMC Acadia Denali did it in 9.2 liters. It's a smaller engine, so obviously this is more performance-oriented. Kind of makes sense. The Subaru Ascent Sport, kind of a big vehicle, did it in 9 liters per 100 kilometers. And then the Honda Pilot Sport actually was one of the worst that we've tested at 10 liters per 100 kilometers. So kind of right in the middle when it comes to overall efficiency. But how about the Nissan Pathfinder Platinum? I spent the entire winter with that vehicle, so I got to be pretty familiar with it. There are a couple things about it when it comes to it. First of all, the overall width and length of the Explorer is about 1 inch longer and wider. The wheelbase is also 5 inches longer. That helps with ride. It also helps with the rear seating arrangement. Although, Nissan has done a slightly better job when it comes to the interior space. The cargo is better on the Pathfinder, as well as the front, head, and legroom. Now the rear, the second leg and headroom, is actually better on the Explorer. But I'll tell you, when I'm sitting in this vehicle, whether it's in the front or the second row, I do feel like it's a little bit tighter than some of the other vehicles in the competition. Me personally, I kind of like the Pathfinder. Even though you're not getting as much power, you ultimately get 1,000 pounds more tow rating at 6,000 pounds compared to the 5,000 on the Explorer here. But it depends on what you're going for. I really like the look of this, and I think it's one of the most sporty in the segment, giving you a bit of aggressive with a bit of masculine design elements to it without going too over the top. So really, Ford, I think, has done an excellent job when it comes to the facelift of the Ford Explorer. But I do want to talk about how the interior has changed, even though James did discuss it when he featured this last year, but it is pretty substantial. We'll do that after we do a little bit of performance driving. All right, my friends, we're on the road now in the Ford Explorer ST. We do have manual shift mode. Push that down. You got flappy paddles. Yeah, I mean, it ain't too bad overall. I mean, the performance is there. Transmission's a little slow. As I'm going around a cyclist, I want to make sure I'm not hitting them. Oh, yeah. Sounds pretty good, though. I don't know how much of the microphone picks up that sound, but surprisingly pretty good. I'm going to put it back into regular drive mode here. I do find that the automatic shifts well enough. And in fact, I'm in sport mode. I find that the vehicle actually has a little too much power. It's a little too jumpy when you're getting off the line. So sport mode really, sometimes with vehicles, you'll just keep the vehicle in sport mode just because you want to have some fun with it. But yeah, in other cases, you're going to be putting it because, you're needing it on the track. I don't think a lot of people are going to be taking this on the track though. So I just keep it in sport for this, just to give you an idea, because it's relatively efficient when you're in eco mode, and then it can be pretty peppy when you want it to. Now, I was going to go and turn down that road there to do a little bit of a launch. It's closed for whatever reason, so I'll give you a quick idea here. Driving a white Explorer, I can do kind of whatever I want. 0 to 100. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now it figures out where it needs to be. Not bad overall. Not bad also considering I couldn't do the full launch I wanted to. I had to go immediately, so the vehicle wasn't quite sure what was going on. But yeah, performance is pretty good there. You have fake exhausts. I mean, technically they're real. You can see instead of them coming out, they do go down. That is a pretty common thing that we're seeing these days. It's just to help make the vehicle a little cleaner. You don't want all that exhaust coming back up, especially onto the white trunk and tailgate of the vehicle. So a lot of brands are putting the actual exhaust pipes pointing downwards now. I'm sure that's a pretty easy fix. It's really just the tips. So if you wanted to have proper rear quad exhausts, I'm sure there's a way to do it pretty easily in the aftermarket. But for the most part, I've enjoyed my time with this vehicle. I wouldn't say it's the best in the segment. There are a lot of good options, but it depends on what you need out of a vehicle. If you're comparing like a performance SUV, something like the Dodge Durango, even if they're making it still, they keep saying they're going to kill it, but then they still keep making it. That's, got quite a bit of options if you want. You've got the V8, you've got the SRT, you used to have the Hellcat. There's a lot of different options to get more performance out of this segment. If you want something that's more efficient, Ford doesn't really have you covered anymore, right? They used to offer the hybrid. They got rid of that quite a while ago. We actually featured it, and I believe at the time my calculations were, if you wanted to spend the $5,000 on the optional hybrid extra, it would cost the driving equivalent of 400,000 kilometers to make back that $5,000, because there was such a small margin between the gas and the regular version, or in the hybrid version, in terms of fuel efficiency. Yeah, that's based on numbers, not necessarily real world, but still. I think, though, we're in 25 now. Ford has, some experience now in electrification. I think it could be an opportunity to either bring back the hybrid or bring a plug-in hybrid. The major change for 2026, Ford is adding the Tremor trim to this vehicle. They've tremored a number of their vehicles. All the pickup trucks have a Tremor version, and now the Explorer on top of the Expedition has a Tremor off-road version. It is much more off-road capable than, say, their current lineup, the Timberline. That doesn't really do it justice. That's more of like a trim appearance package, whereas the actual off-road capabilities come with the Tremor. We had a quick look at it when we were doing the Expedition stuff, but we didn't have a chance to drive it. It was a pre-production model. But I can tell you that it will be coming for 26. But aside from that, pretty much unchanged, because the interior here got the update that it was kind of needing. Much better sync system here. It's running Sync 4 with Google built in. You've got built-in Google Maps. It's worked so far for me. I haven't had any issues, and I like this more in a landscape configuration than a portrait one. I just don't like the portrait style for any infotainment system, doesn't matter who the manufacturer is. Now, before we continue with more of the interior stuff, now I can kind of give you more of a proper launch here. So, sport mode, engine kicks back on, mash it down. A little bit of a delay there, but then we're up to speed, no problem. My phone flies off, a lot of torque. So yes, overall pretty good. I've actually been pretty impressed with that. But yeah, the interior's got much more, a little bit more refinement, I'd say. A little bit more premium oriented, given the price tag of this specific trim. And it actually reminds me a little bit of what they've done now with the Expedition. The dashboard area, pretty elegant, for the most part. Softer material, still quite a lot of plastic everywhere, but whatever. It works, it's fine. I just find that the functionality and layout is much better than it was on the pre-facelift, and especially compared to the last generation. I didn't like that one at all. So overall, good improvements there. But yes, when it comes to the competition, if you want an efficient vehicle, something like the Hyundai Santa Fe is going to be an option for you. If you want a lot more, sort of tech features, like if you want a head-up display, a lot of options out there. Nissan Pathfinder is the first one that comes to mind for me. If you want a little bit more space, right? Like I said, this is, a little bit smaller interior-wise compared to something like the Pathfinder, so there's other options out there. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those solid choices. I see tons of Explorers, right? People love buying them, so they are a pretty easy choice for a lot of people when it comes to it. And I think that this facelift has really helped to make that choice a lot easier. I mean, it's a much better interior here, and the exterior, even though small refinements, I do like it quite a bit. I think it looks very, very handsome, very sexy, in a very sort of police car kind of way, obviously. But I have enjoyed my time with this. But it's a highly competitive segment, as I said. So good job, Ford. It's good to see some changes. Good to hear that they are taking customer feedback, journalist feedback, making the changes that they need. So here's my feedback again, Ford. Let's electrify these vehicles. Let's bring at least a better powered hybrid or a plug-in hybrid to this, making this a little bit more, I wouldn't say competitive because there's really not a lot of plug-ins in this segment, but it would allow them to have something in their arsenal to make it that much more compelling. But if you have any questions about this episode of Test Drive, we always try to get back to everybody as quickly as we can. So let us know your thoughts on the Explorer. Is this a vehicle that you are considering? I'm hoping so, or I'm hoping you have some level of interest in it. That's why you clicked on the video. But let me know, are you shopping the midsize consumer crossover segment? Was the Explorer ever on your list? Is it a vehicle that meets your needs? Do the really wide opening doors make it easier for you because you've got a car seat, so it's easier to get your kids in and out? Let us know in the comments below. We always like to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, and we know that like 98% of you aren't, we really recommend and highly invite you to subscribe to the channel, as it helps us. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and we'd love to do so this year. So make sure you click that button and get subscribed. But until next time, thanks for watching, and take care.